Hi friends, welcome to the NPTEL course Strategy and Technology, a practical primer. We are in week 8, the last lecture of the week, with the theme of the week, Technology and Competitive Strategy. In this lecture, the 40th in the series, the topic is Innovation and Generic Strategies. We will also have a case study. We saw that there are 3 generic competitive strategies that are appropriate for most industries, and there are several phases of evolution. These are cost leadership, differentiation, and niche. But innovation is one which has got great importance in defining differentiation to the higher level. Innovation is more than just investment in R&D, although R&D is the foundation of new product development. It is a matter for question as to why Michael Porter did not accord importance to innovation as one of the most important aspects of competitive strategy. Probably he thought that not many companies would be carrying out innovation and would be the pioneers and the leaders in that space. And probably also he thought that differentiation would take care of innovation. But we have seen through our analysis that there is a difference between innovation, which is pioneering, and differentiation, which is smart superiority over innovation. Innovation is more than just investment in R&D, although R&D is the foundation of new product development. Innovator firms need to rediscover R&D from the current confines of being a mechanical or time-driven function, and it has to become an experimental hotbed of fundamental research. For that, I propose a 3-point framework. We need to have application leadership, we need to have experience leadership, and we need to have experimental leadership. These are 3 critical strategic options for innovator firms. Application leadership reconfigures how a user or product function is fulfilled. Experience leadership elevates user experience to an entirely new dimension. Experimental leadership pursues innovation for innovation's sake, but in the process delivers truly transformational product or service. These are the 3 ways in which innovation can drive strategy for any company. We focus in this lecture on how innovation is an intertwined part of all the 3 generic competitive strategies, although the emphasis varies from generic strategy to generic strategy. Cost leadership, just to recall, ensures price competitiveness or earning superiority, or a combination thereof, with certain interstate trade-offs. Differentiation achieves a superior market and price position based on a set of differentiated features. Niche or focus seeks to adopt narrow product market strategies that are unique to the firm. Some firms are successful in adopting a mix of the 3 strategies to eventually emerge as industry leaders. The 3 generic competitive strategies, however, are primarily aimed at differentiators and followers. The word generic in this context refers to the availability of strategies to firms in general. There is no generic innovation strategy as such. We need to figure out one. For those people who totally engage themselves in innovative products or services, we have to look at fulfilling a new use or application and or fulfill an existing use or application in a novel manner based on innovation. The product, process, service related view dominates the competitive strategy for innovative companies. Sony Walkman morphed into Sony Discman, and that in the hands of Steve Jobs became Apple iPod, iPhone, and iPad, although they are not evolutionary products from Discman. He only took an inspirational idea and created an entirely new lineage of products. X-ray imaging has become CT imaging, and now is becoming lab-in-chip. And within CT imaging, we have had several modifications, improvements, and now new strides. That said, firms that deliver an existing product or service through an innovative way of delivery may not be considered innovator firms. For example, a firm is engaged in transportation of a product, utilizing trucks that are fitted with RFID devices. These may not qualify as innovator firms, although they have struck upon a somewhat inventive component in their service value chain. When a firm is focused on innovation, the firm will be focused primarily on innovation strategies, product strategies, process strategies, and related to those management strategies, but certainly not on generic competitive strategies. Innovative company has got its game plan done in a different way. It doesn't mean that other functions do not chip in with their contributions. If the other functions such as manufacturing and distribution didn't chip in, Pfizer BioNTech would not have been able to distribute globally a vaccine which required unusual refrigeration conditions, that is minus 75 degrees centigrade, to be able to store the vaccine at that kind of cold chamber conditions and transfer that vaccine all around the globe is not a simple feat. It is a mind-boggling logistics and distribution challenge, and that has been done because all the functions chipped in with their own innovations to make this happen. Therefore, innovation strategy is not just an R&D strategy. It is primarily driven by R&D, but several other functions can chip in and participate in this innovation roadmap of the innovation company. What is the basic purpose of each of these things, and how does that tie up with innovation? Innovation gives a strong entry and a significant time advantage in the marketplace. It even provides a pioneer's monopoly, but only so long as another innovator or differentiated product or service catering to a similar need does not get introduced in the marketplace. As long as another innovator doesn't enter the marketplace and patent its product also, innovator would have a home turf in that market. Over and above that, the generic competitive strategies add business power for innovative companies. For cost leaders, innovation helps because they get additional staying power when new competitors enter the market with or without the lower cost of products. Builds a reservoir of accumulated profits to invest aggressively in new product innovation. That is, just because you are an innovator company, you need not splurge. You need not be cost inefficient. You need not be unmindful of the importance of cost. You can be an innovator, but you could also be a cost leader. That helps you to generate cash and deploy it for more innovation. The second aspect is that innovators can be differentiators themselves. They can differentiate themselves on certain specific attributes, and that way innovators can build brand equity across different product market segments. This provides a strong defense against market erosion. They can also be focused and niche players, and that is more relevant for smaller innovator firms. It is well deployed by boutique R&D firms which deal in a narrow product range in the drug discovery area and in the component area. We also talked about how Adobe continues to be an innovator in document management system, how McAfee and other antivirus companies specialize in that area and continue to drive through innovation newer codes that ensure that companies are able to protect themselves not only against normal hacking but against complicated cyber security dangers. Therefore, the three generic strategies help even the innovator firms develop brand equity at product or service level and secure staying power at firm level. Individually or together, these three strategies are helpful for the innovator companies. They are a vital adjunct. Therefore, innovative firms and innovative leaders should not scoff at the generic competitive strategy. Rather, they should utilize them for being the first movers into the markets and have monopoly advantage as long as it is possible. To be able to do that, innovators themselves should have competitive strategies which take in these kinds of inputs. And those strategies should be the foundation strategies on which the generic competitive strategies can be superimposed and can be worked as adjuncts. Prior to that, we should understand the key role of R&D as the hallmark of innovators. R&D is the foundation for new product development by innovative firms. In fact, R&D is the engine of growth. Many firms still stand by organic R&D, that is in-house R&D, as the engine of growth, while an increasing number of firms is opportunistic about inorganically acquired R&D. The level of R&D budget, both in absolute numbers and as percentage of sales, determines the difference between an innovation-led industry segment and a follower-led industry segment. Over time, unfortunately, however, R&D firms have become a mechanical or time-driven routine firms. That is, R&D oriented firms have become pretty mechanical in conducting R&D. It has become an incrementalism even in innovation. So the kind of experimental hotbed that should be there in fundamental research is not there in the R&D companies, which is one of the reasons why certain companies have decided to divisionalize, decentralize, or even move into startups their main R&D efforts and effects. R&D focus determines the relative interfirm scaling in innovation. We have seen earlier that technology, whether it comes from internal resources or external resources, must be treated as one, which shapes the competitive strategy, collaborative or competitive, and results in a good business strategy. Same applies here. R&D could be external or internal. What we are interested in is the sum total of all the R&D which the company sponsors. A clear R&D roadmap and a robust R&D budget are the drivers of sustainable innovation in a firm. If R&D is the domain for product renewal rather than product redefinition, the company would have a problem, because product renewal can be done by a development division, but product redefinition or product reinvention is something which only proper R&D can do. At times we do have model upgrades beyond the normal limit, for example in the automobile industry, but still it is not a breakthrough technology that seems to happen. The overall theme of R&D in a great majority of companies is to find a new product for the same application or to make the existing product better, which is the reason why companies such as Tesla has garnered such market capitalization in the automobile industry, because it dared to do what others were not willing to do. So if you have certain strategic and creative elements in your management portfolio or the innovation portfolio, and you match them up with organizational and delivery components, you will have an innovation engine running perfectly well in the company. The strategic and creative elements are aspiration, ability to choose amongst the various aspirations, discovering the pathway to do that aspiration into an accomplishment, and in the process evolve as a more mature R&D organization consistently and continuously. From an organizational point of view, the sooner you accomplish an R&D project, the greater would be your impact in the marketplace and in commercialization prospects. The ability for scaling up the R&D projects is another theme that is very important in industry dominance. There is no point in having a gold-plated item which the vendors cannot support in terms of their components. We need to have a product which can be made using the materials available or the materials and components which others can develop. So scalability is one of the organizational credos for R&D. Extension, that is, ability to move this to the same design family or to another design family, so that the costs are diffused across many product families and the benefits are also extended to many product families. And finally, mobilize, that is the ability to bring together all the functions of the company to support R&D drive, is an organizational delivery component. These 8 factors may be seen to be enabling factors and not be seen as competitive strategies. However, these are very important. They are as important as the 3 generic strategies are for firms in general in the overall. The 3 innovator strategies which I would outline are again original strategies which are developed for practice. The innovator strategies must prescribe end goals which are not project specific, which are not project dependent, and are not firm specific or firm demand. That is, they are agnostic to projects, they are agnostic to firm. But it is not that they are not related to the firm and the project, but these are the themes. Just as generic competitive strategies are the themes, the 3 innovator strategies are also the themes. If R&D is the core of innovation, application leadership is one theme, experience leadership is another theme, and experimental leadership is the third theme. The goals should be somewhat universal strategies of innovation that provide a sustainable competitive position for an innovator from whichever is the innovation strategy that is chosen. Let's illustrate application leadership a bit more. Every product is obviously designed to meet an application. Password is a product created by ourselves to ensure security for the user of either a computer or a safe. But we have technology which says that I will generate the password for you and I will remember it for you. Protecting the password then moves from the individual to the machine, to the computer. So development of password in a smartphone itself has evolved. From the username password kind of physical appearance, physical feel, it has moved into biometrics, fingerprint scanning. Then it moved into iris scanning. Now it is face reader. So a combination of password potentialities were exploited over a period of time so that it is both easy as well as effective. These developments are done more easily on a smartphone because this smartphone has a processor as well as a camera. So how do we extend this even further? If we are able to bring the same functionalities of processor, camera and communicator to the password mechanism of a safe, an entirely new safety system would evolve. Not many safes in the home or in the business have the same kind of password protection of all the four as a smartphone would have. So what can be done in smartphone can easily be done on a safe. And why doesn't it get done? Because application leadership is lacking. And if this is done, multiple password possibilities and also recording of all the attempts to open the safe and communicating the photo identity of those who attempt to break open the safe would also be available. Such an integrated application would be a game changer for several industries, including but not limited to the domestic or office safe industry. So this is an example how an idea that originated and got developed and fully applied in the smartphone industry can be transferred to the safe industry, and it could be applied anywhere else where secure entry is desired. Another example, application leadership requires a disruptive approach in a positive sense of making things better, of course, so that the user functions or product functions can be performed in a better way. You need a flying car, there is an aspiration, and that will require breakthrough or disruptive technologies. We are calling this not a fundamental discovery but as an application discovery, an application innovation. To be able to do that, we need electronic and communication technologies like mini rocket engine for vertical thrust. If a car is moving in a traffic and it is stuck, it cannot have a runway for taking off. It has to move up vertically, just as a helicopter would do. That ability must be there in the flying car. It requires a breakthrough combination of automotive and aeronautic technologies, and it should have a mini jet engine for flying alongside whatever is the zero emission engine that a new automobile is expected to have. Precision navigation systems for takeoff, flying and smooth landing are required, and therefore it will be an autonomous plus vehicle. Onboard computer should control these two engines, that is the mini jet engine as well as the new power pack, alongside the traditional gasoline or diesel engine if it is required. That is, if the new age electric or solar power pack is not able to achieve vertical lift, you still need to have a gasoline engine or diesel engine. So there are three engines within that. How do you manage this happening? A mini jet engine for flying, which is alongside a hybrid system, that is required. Why? Because we are trying to provide better thrust, better power to take off. If it were not to be required, if the electric power packs are upgraded to also provide the required energy for vertical thrust, maybe then we don't need a mini jet engine for these kinds of applications. Firms committed to application leadership would be having many laboratories which are dedicated to discovering and developing fundamentally new technologies and fundamentally new ways of integrating them into production. But we are seeing application of these technologies in our midst. That is the advantage of application leadership. Now let's look at experience leadership. In contrast to application leadership, which re-engineers the usage product mix completely, experience leadership focuses more on a product and it makes sure that the product meets higher levels of sensory satisfaction. The touch keyboard is an example of transitioning from mechanical to electromechanical and electronic resistive and capacitive types. You can see that by using these kinds of touch methodologies, the user experience moved up quite a few notches. There are several other examples that can be thought about. Passenger seats that reconfigure optimally to a driver body profile. You don't need to adjust the seat height, seat width, nothing needs to be done. The seat itself will reconfigure itself optimally. Silent automotive and industrial engines, no noise engines, zero noise fans, air conditioners and HVAC systems. Voice communicators such as Siri of iPhone or Cortana of Windows Phone, which not merely ask questions but they read your questions even before you express them. Visual graphics of a high technology movie. Virtual reality and augmented reality headsets. These are some examples, and each of these things could be an application leadership startup potential business. Movies that are tuned into blockbusters through technological and or emotional enhancements are in fact an excellent and long-standing example of experience leadership. They bring superlative experiences onto conventional tales, whether it is a Mission Impossible or Avatar or our own Bahubali or the upcoming RRR. You can see that the technological and emotional enhancements are intertwined and they provide totally a different experience for the people who go through that process of viewing the movies. That is experience leadership at its height. Another example of experience leadership. We have to combine product and process approaches to take user experience to a different level. So we have got navigation capability, we have got the comfort of a bus and the rough ride of a all-terrain vehicle. So let's focus on the worst case situation or the most demanding situation and develop the products to meet such extreme needs. And that requires novel material and precision manufacturing technologies to conceptualize and provide an elevated level of user experience. We need to have rugged all-terrain sports utility vehicles that cater to the most punishing terrains while insulating the passengers from excessive trauma. And to be able to do that, we need to focus on experience leadership to achieve market dominance. Low-floor buses are another example. If they are designed to let even the old and disabled commuters enter the buses most comfortably, it is an example of design perfection for the most delicate and most important need of the senior citizens. For example, iPad was not the first tablet to be made, but it became the leader with the experience leadership approach of Apple. Similarly, iPhone may not be having the best of specifications, but it provides the best of experience. So experience leadership fires innovation on to a totally different trajectory, which is higher than the other competitors. Then we come to the experimental leadership. As I said, experimental leadership focuses on discovering something for the sake of discovery. It is exploration of the unknown and to bring something in the realm of knowledge that can be used at a future point of time. This experimental leadership has no precise goals to commercially seek. It just focuses on discovering or executing something innovatively for innovation's sake. The NASA space programs represented experimentation with the universe. Various projects in genetics and cloning originated as innovation to understand human biology. Virgin Galactic spaceship projects and Amazon's Blue Origin suborbital space flights and SpaceX flights again are driven by a long-term goal of bringing space travel and interstellar exploration within the reach of private humans. This strategy is fired by the sheer audacity and the distant horizon of experimental vision. World is a laboratory for the people who are engaged in experimental leadership. Not all experimental vision need to be that challenging and distant. Many technologies that were being perfected experimentally, such as self-driving car, hyperloop, terrestrial wireless through balloons and satellites, computational photography, wearable health devices, augmented reality, drone delivery, and so on are now commercial realities. They were experiments at some point of time. So everybody need not go to space to be able to practice experimental leadership. We can do that within our own industrial terrestrial system. An example of experimental leadership. Experimental leadership is particularly relevant when companies have surplus cash and if pursuit of additional scale in conventional domains with such cash no longer makes sense. That is, you have cash to be deployed in completely new areas. It is such experimental ventures are operated as exclusive divisions out of the glare of the larger organization and separately budgeted and staffed. But they require close links with experimental developments in universities and research laboratories. They also have to be aligned with the national missions such as clean energy and smart cities. They have gestation periods of 5 to 10 years and in some cases such as space programs even longer. They require distinctive and differentiated technologies to shape the future. This is the experimental leadership conceptual framework. It requires a much greater perfecting and fusion of new technologies than the application leadership or experience leadership. This is the challenge and also the opportunity of experimental leadership. It is creating new knowledge so that the world benefits at some point of time. Naturally, the company which has brought in results from the experimental leadership will become the leader at the commercialization stage. So what is this innovation mindset that is going to drive these three innovator strategies? That leadership mindset should exist at the firm level as well as at the functional level. They should be able to appreciate and implement the enablers of innovation. They should be the part of the broader organizational DNA. They must encourage the following things: transformational changes in product market configurations, ideation to fulfill aspirations, implementation of radical execution plans, acceptance of risks and tolerance of failures. Must identify and set apart resources on such action plans over long periods of time. The broader organization, the DNA, should also retain the ability to be nimble and flexible in the face of changes in technology and markets. In most cases, the top leaders must possess the visionary intuition and entrepreneurial zeal to conceptualize innovation-based projects. They should also have resilient fortitude to pursue them despite the setbacks. Innovation requires not only creativity and steadfastness, but also openness for review, self-introspection, and integration of new pathways. That is an organizational DNA and innovation culture of the organization. Innovator competitive strategies require collaboration between public and private agencies. The reason is public agencies also have tremendous experimentation at their command, tremendous amount of knowledge that is generated out of years and decades of experimentation. Many of the material technologies have been pioneered by military users. Space agencies have pioneered several material technologies and component technologies, including complex algorithms. So these are all available, but private and public agencies must collaborate to be able to do that. That is happening in the interstellar space projects that are taking place now. Innovation works best in an innovation-driving organizational operating system, which is nurtured by an innovation-inspired leadership mindset, both in public and in private agencies. Delivery by drones would have been impossible as an industry if the innovators and air transportation agencies did not collaborate on safety and practicality of this mechanism. So much so, there is a specific policy to encourage drone design and drone manufacture in India. It is taken up as one of the important pillars of Atmanirbhar, that is self-reliance program. Low-floor buses would be useless if civic authorities do not construct bus shelters and pathways that are friendly to the differently abled. The best of ultra-high definition televisions would not provide the viewing pleasure without commensurate transmission services. So as you move from 1G to 5G and hopefully at some point of time to another XG, these developments which are digitally driven would be useful, would be helpful and would be feasible. Oftentimes the dilemma would be who should be the driver of innovation, the product manufacturer or the service provider. There is no clear-cut answer. But if leaders in vantage positions think and act by and for innovation, eventually the total consumer value chain would benefit. The hardware makers and the software developers would collaborate to ensure that new products and services are offered for the consumers in the overall. So having looked at innovation as a generic strategic framework, let's focus on one company which has been innovating all the way. It is Whirlpool Corporation, specializing in the white goods sector. It's a home appliance company, long history again, 110 years, founded 1911 and publicly listed in the USA with 92,000 employees, plants all over the USA. Everybody knows the kind of products Whirlpool Corporation does: washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, whatever the home needs. The ideation process has been at the core of Whirlpool's continuous innovation and coming up with several generations and genres of home appliances. They come from structured ideation sessions, but they're also open to ideas coming from any employee who wants to contribute. It starts with idea generation, comes to basic business case formation, then moves on to competition for the development of the idea, then testing happens and experimentation, and finally large-scale commercialization. This is the 6-step ideation process that happens at Whirlpool. There are 4 models of corporate entrepreneurship which can be considered for any company, Whirlpool being one of the companies. There could be other companies as well. Generally, organizational ownership can be diffused or focused, and the resource authority could be ad hoc, as required kind of thing, or it could be a dedicated structure. If a company believes in diffused organizational ownership, that is, it spreads entrepreneurship all across the organization and also provides a dedicated stream of resources, then that company could be seen as the enabler of corporate entrepreneurship, because the company provides funding and senior executive attention to prospective projects. Whirlpool is a company of that type. Google is another company. If, on the other hand, organizational ownership is focused but fully supported with the dedicated resource authority, the company becomes a producer. It uses corporate entrepreneurship for continuously producing new products and services. There is no openness, a clear focus of production. That is Cargill. Suppose the ownership is diffused, but the resource authority is very ad hoc, then it is an opportunistic mode of corporate entrepreneurship. It has no deliberate approach to corporate entrepreneurship, and new businesses are built from grassroots efforts. It is random creativity based on few project champions. Zimmer Holdings is an example. On the other hand, organizational ownership is focused and resource authority is ad hoc, is an advocate type of corporate entrepreneurship. The company strongly evangelizes for corporate entrepreneurship, but business units provide the primary funding. If you are entrepreneurial, that business unit alone must provide the primary funding. It doesn't flow from the corporate. Example, DuPont. Within these 4 models of corporate entrepreneurship, Whirlpool belongs to the diffused ownership and dedicated resource model. The enabler model at Whirlpool works this way. The employees will be willing to develop new concepts if given adequate support. And enabler companies generally provide clear criteria for selecting which opportunities to pursue, application guidelines for funding, decision-making transparency. It is a structured innovation process, including recruitment and retention of entrepreneurially minded employees, and above all, active support from senior management. In the case of Whirlpool Corporation, it has set apart dedicated funds every year for innovation, combined with a clear process for fund allocation. This goes a long way in unlocking latent entrepreneurial potential. Well-designed enabler practices also have the side benefit of exposing senior management to ambitious, innovative young employees, allowing the company to identify and nurture future leaders. We have seen in terms of Sony PlayStation example that a creative junior employee could create a whole new product range of games and create a whole new business vertical for Sony that has stood the company in great stride in future. And the gentleman also became senior leader in the company. The enabler model at Whirlpool tries to do that. As a result of this, Whirlpool has been able to secure several industry firsts. They were game-changing products as well. The company is driven by intellectual curiosity and innovation, world-class manufacturing, Internet of Things, leading-edge design, craftsmanship, digital technologies, and things like that drive Whirlpool's innovation to improve life at home. The company was the first to get electric wringer clothes washer. It is a poor cousin of today's high-tech washers and dryers, but that's how it started. It was also the first iconic KitchenAid stand mixer. It was the first bottom freezer refrigerator. It had the first side-by-side refrigerator also. It provided the self-ventilated cooktop for the first time, microwave oven for the first time, first energy water efficient top-load washer, and first large capacity front-load washer in the US. These innovations came because of the innovation mindset that existed in the company. It also had W Labs, that is Whirlpool's innovation brand of innovating in the company. This innovation brand enables Whirlpool Corporation to extend and expand its reach outside its core by introducing new products in spaces unknown to Whirlpool Corporation. W Labs acts as a startup inside this Fortune 200 company. The process followed at W Labs is as below. First, engage with early adopters and create a forum for co-creation and feedback. Test the potential products in new markets. Build confidence that the company has solved a unique pain point for consumers. So it is a startup approach, a design thinking approach that has been institutionalized within the company through a laboratory mechanism. Because of the innovation as a DNA, Whirlpool has been able to achieve several innovation awards. It earned 5 innovation awards for its new and upcoming products: KitchenAid Smart Oven, KitchenAid Cook Processor Connect, Smart All-in-One Washer Dryer, Digital Recipe Platform, Connected Hub Wall Oven Concept, etc. These awards are given for outstanding design and engineering in cutting-edge consumer electronics across 28 product categories. It is named as one of the world's most admired companies for the 10th consecutive year. Between 1999 and 2003, innovation was built at Whirlpool as a core competency. It started with a large leadership transformation led by Dave Whitwam. He was the Whirlpool CEO at that time. He was convinced that in order to thrive in the new century, it was necessary to create a new platform that would take the company from an operational focused company to a consumer focused company. This was the genesis of the brand focused value creation strategy, in which consumer devotion to the company's brands would enable Whirlpool to escape what he used to call the industry's stalemate, also referred to as the Sea of White. In order to achieve this, he brought in a model where every employee would be part of the innovation effort. Innovation would come from anyone and everyone. This was the genesis of an initiative that in retrospect changed Whirlpool forever. Making innovation completely accessible, admirable across the organization was a game-changing thought which the CEO brought in. Between 2004 and 2018, a new CEO took over, Jeff Fetting. He came with a highly operational approach to bring innovation to its next phase. A holistic management system was brought in to define innovation, make it sustainable, scalable, and inescapable. What helped was the sandbox, which was wide open and well beyond the business at the beginning. This liberated huge pent-up energy in the company to explore and invent new models even beyond appliances. Teams were asked to go off-site 1 or 2 days per month to take part in facilitated innovation sessions. This helped Whirlpool to move innovation driven by innovation teams in separate rooms to innovation by everyone. Inclusive innovation was the game-changing activity between 2004 and 2008. As a result of these foundational developments, innovation got institutionalized as a core competency. Between 2003 and 2005, Whirlpool Corporation's revenue grew consistently, and innovation of new products occupied center stage in this growth. As of April 2006 itself, the innovation pipeline had 568 products under development, of which 195 were being scaled up for commercial launch. It is a breathtaking number for any company, even if it is a global giant. While Whirlpool may not have grown year over year, the fact that the company held its ground against highly aggressive Korean competition, Samsung, LG, and the likes, is attributable to sustained institutionalized innovation at Whirlpool. Its corporate financials have been hovering around $20 billion, but the earnings have been meager relative to the potential, mainly because of the huge competition that South Korean companies provide to Whirlpool. Nevertheless, the innovation continues. The engine of innovation at Whirlpool is driving continuously new product developments. Whirlpool is a classic case of innovation being taken up as a generic strategy all across the organization, and innovation inclusion is taken as one of the leadership goals. Leadership has believed in innovation and implemented it all across the company, and therefore the foundation of innovation enables continuous growth of innovative products at Whirlpool. These are some of the notes related to Whirlpool, which you can go through at your convenience. Thank you.